Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a few little thrift flips and we're going to be making over a few little items. Now this is a silver plate tray, and I know a lot of you don't like the idea of painting over silver, and I'm sorry if you're one of those. This one just happens to be just silver plated, and it had some bad spots where it was going through to, I guess, copper was underneath. So I really don't feel bad painting this one. And if you've never tried to do a cement finish on these trays, then I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how it changes them up and just creates a really pretty look. And I'm starting here with Slick Stick by Dixie Belle. And I'm not sponsored by Dixie Belle or anyone, but it really works well in helping paint stick to these really slick surfaces. Now this is another item that I am going to be making over. This is a tiered tray that I made several months ago and painted it white, and it just hasn't gotten much interest, so I decided that I'm going to make over my own item and turn it also into a cement finish. And the color that I'm using here is French linen, and that's a Dixie Belle color, and it's just a good warm gray to start out with, and that's what you want. And you don't have to have this French linen. You could use a Waverly chalk paint, and there's the color that works really well in Waverly is mineral. But just any gray color that's more of a warm color. I don't really like the blue grays for this, but any of the warm grays would work. And so you're just going to put a couple of coats of that on each of these items. And then the third item that we're going to be making over is this, I guess it's resin bunny, and it's white-ish. It's got places coming through. I'm not sure what the finish is on it, but we're going to make this a cement look also. And like I said, this is resin, and so it's not going to be as heavy as concrete, but we're going to make it look like it's a cement bunny. And here I'm using that same color. I don't need to use the Slick Stick on this or the last item that I did, because both already have a good base color on them. So we're not going to have to try to make this paint stick. It's going to stick well to that paint. But this little bunny has so many nooks and crannies and crevices that it is really a pain to paint. But as I've said before, the harder they are to paint, the better the wax is going to look on them. So I don't mind taking the extra time and getting into all these nooks and crannies. And I've been asked several times what types of brushes I use, and the answer to that is just whatever I have on hand. I use so many different types of brushes. And I go through a lot. So I just, I don't worry about using really expensive brushes. I just kind of use whatever I have that works. And now here I've decided that I wanted a little more texture on this. So when you're doing a cement finish, you can use just straight paint if that's what you choose. But it does look more realistic if you add some texture. And you can do that a couple different ways. This is the Dixie Belle product that you use for texture, and this is called Sea Spray, and it's great for texture because a little goes a long way. As a matter of fact, where I've mixed this up, I end up having to add a little bit of paint here to thin it down. But like I said, a little does go a very long way, and when it dries, it dries really hard. So that texture stays put really, really well. But until I discovered this product, what I always used was baking soda. And I just take my paint, and you can mix it up to half and half. I usually use less baking soda because I don't like a crazy amount of texture. I just want enough to be able to grab that wax and give it some dimension. And although I love this product here and I will use it, there'll be a lot of times that I'll still use my baking soda because it's very inexpensive and it works really well. If you don't own a turntable for painting, you should really invest in one. If you find them at thrift stores, you can usually buy them pretty cheap. So, like I said, if you don't own one, it really helps when you're painting to get around your object well. And here I'm just going over this slick stick with this paint. And this slick stick, I am very happy with the results of it. You can take a very slick surface, even glass, and put a good coat of that slick stick and let it dry well, and paint will stick to it really well. And here where I had started painting the bottom of this tier tray, I'm just painting the tops now. And this is another item that is just really hard to get in all those nooks and crannies because I used a hobnail piece as my riser, and getting down into those little the little hobnails it just takes some work. And the same thing with the top of this tray, the way it's made. But again, that just gives more opportunity for the white wax to shine. So I don't mind the extra time that it takes on these. But this paint, when you add this texture, it adds a thickness to the piece. And so when you use that white wax, it really creates a concrete or a cement finish. And if you didn't pick the item up, you would just assume that it was concrete because it really does look like concrete. So if you haven't tried this technique, you really should try it. And again, this piece here had so many nooks and crannies, and just when I felt like I had the whole thing covered, I would turn it at a different angle and find another place that needed painting. So it really was no fun to paint, but it just made me more excited for how it would turn out once I added the wax to it. Now, I could have added feet to this tray, and I kind of went back and forth on whether or not to, and decided that I just wanted it to be flat, so I didn't do that. But now here I'm just taking the white wax by Dixie Belle, and again, I'm not sponsored by anyone. As a matter of fact, I've used several types of white wax. I love them all for different reasons. So I really haven't found one that I didn't like. So, but I do prefer these creamy waxes versus the more liquid waxes for this product. For some other products, the liquid ones work well. But for this particular one, I think you need the creamy waxes. And I'm omitting a step here because I took a chance. And what I generally do is after I paint, put my coat of paint on, then I take it and spray a coat of clear coat, any kind of a clear coat, so that when I put this wax on, after that clear coat dries, I put the wax on and wipe it off, and then it doesn't try to pull my paint off, because a lot of times if you don't clear coat it, it will. But for two reasons, I decided not to do it this time. And one is because I didn't use the baking soda for my texture. I used that sea spray from Dixie Belle for the texture, which made the paint dry really hard. So I kind of put more faith in the fact that it wouldn't pull that paint off, and it didn't. And I also let that paint dry overnight, and I generally don't have time to do that. It just happened to be that it was the end of the day when I got that paint finished. So because I had the extra dry time, and because I used the sea spray instead of baking soda, on these items, I decided to go ahead and wax them without clear coating them first, and it worked really well. It didn't try to pull, the wax didn't try to pull any of my paint off. It worked out really well. So if you have that extra time to let your item dry overnight, and especially if you use a professional brand, I guess, of the texture, so that it dries harder, then it's less likely to pull the paint off. But if you're using baking soda and you only have time for it to dry for an hour or so, then that extra clear coat step is a good idea. So like I said, I'm just kind of taking a wax brush, and I do like to use a wax brush for this. And here I'm using a stencil brush to get into the little areas that my wax brush won't reach. But you do need brushes for this, because you want to really work it into the texture. So like I said, I'm using my wax brush on most of this, and then down in little areas where I can't get with a wax brush, I just use a little stencil brush. And I may have somebody comment that this is not safe for your hands. I guess I take a lot of chances that I probably shouldn't. But I don't worry with getting this wax on my hands, because it's very easily removed. Even under your nails, when you're using the darker waxes, I don't have any problem getting it to wash off. You just need hot soapy water, and it comes off really easily. So I don't like to slow myself down using gloves, and I feel like it's harder to get to the items with gloves. So I know that maybe I should wear gloves more than I do. I feel like as a crafter that has crafted for several years, my hands are kind of a lost cause anyway. So I don't worry much with manicures or any of that. I just wait till the end of the day and scrub my hands good, and you know, that's just a sacrifice that I make, that because I would rather craft and really get into my craft than have pretty nails. This tiered tray is another item that's just really hard to get with this wax. But if you can get in there good with it, it really makes all the difference in the world with this tray. I hope I've inspired you guys to, if you haven't used this cement finish, or you haven't done this cement finish, I hope that you'll try it on at least one item, and I think if you do, you'll be hooked. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you for watching, and have a great evening. God bless you and your family.